today is properties and disorders of the hair and scalp. Level 2. This is lecture 2. Okay, we're gonna pick up right where we left off. Um, the previous lecture we was talking about the importance of understanding end bonds, side bonds, the 5 elements that make up the hair and its percentages. Now today we're gonna go straight into hair pigment. Okay, your natural hair color is the result of the melanin pigment found within the cortex. We talked about the cortex being the middle layer of the hair. The cortex is where the chemical change takes place. The cuticle is the outer layer, cortex is the middle layer, and the medulla is the innermost layer. Okay, you're going to see this word melanin a lot. Whenever you see this word melanin, I want you to think of pigment or color. But technically, what is melanin? Melanin is the tiny grains of pigment in the cortex that give natural color to the hair. Okay, there are two types of melanin. Eumelanin provides brown and black color to hair, and pheomelanin provides natural hair colors that range from red and ginger to yellow and light blonde tones. So if a client has brown or black color, that's the presence of eumelanin. Pheomelanin is red, ginger, yellow, light blonde, pretty much the other colors. So all of your natural colors depending upon the ratio of eumelanin to pheomelanin, along with the total number and size of pigment granules. Gray hair color. We talked about the color gray, Kanishis. They contain only a few scattered melanin granules, and white hair contains no melanin. Okay. Now, the hair density really varies with the hair color. Blonde is the most dense at roughly 140,000 strands per head. Brown has roughly 110,000. Black 108, and red is the least at 90,000. Okay. Let's talk about wave pattern. Okay, this is very important. The wave pattern, what is it? It refers to the amount of movement in the hair. You have a straight, wavy, curly, or extremely curly, or we might even say coily. Your natural wave patterns are the results of genetics, although there are many exceptions. As a general rule, Asians and Native Americans tend to have extremely straight hair. Caucasians tend to have straight, wavy, or curly hair. And African Americans tend to have extremely curly hair. Or coily. We may call it coily hair, but it's extremely curly hair. Now, that's a generalization, but you could kind of do your analysis on your client to determine which wave pattern your client has. But there are all patterns that are found in each racial or ethnic group. Hair is elliptical in shape, but Asian is closest to being round. Caucasian is more oval, and African Americans have a flatter oval shape. Okay, your wave pattern is the shape of the hair strand. I told you we have straight, wavy, curly, and extremely curly. Extremely curly hair grows in twisted spirals, like coils. Okay. Let's, if you look at figure 1010 on page 254, this is extremely helpful because it gives a breakdown of the basis of hair color and texture. It says individuals with curly hair often have straighter hair in the crown and tighter curls in other areas. So when you get to your clients, you want to analyze, you want to check it out and see which type of wave pattern your client has. Okay, there are several theories that claims that the shape of the hair's cross section determines the amount of curl. This theory claims that hair with a round cross section is straight, hair with an oval to flattened oval cross section is wavy or curly, and hair with a flattened to flattened oval cross section is extremely curly. Table 10.3 on page 254 kind of gives a wave pattern in the shape of cross section. You can review that. And just like we talked about, extremely curly hair. Compared to straight or wavy hair, which tends to possess a fairly regular and uniform diameter along a single strand, extremely curly hair is of fairly irregular thickness, showing varying diameters along a single strand. Some extremely curly hair have a natural tendency to form a coil, like a telephone cord. Coil hair usually has a fine texture, with many individual strands winding together to form the coil locks. Extremely curly hair often has low elasticity, breaks easy, and has a tendency to knot, especially on the ends. Gentle scalp manipulations, conditioning shampoo, and a detangling rinse help to minimize tangles. So we talked about coarse. The texture of the hair, the degree of its coarseness or fineness, is determined by the size of the diameter of the hair. The larger diameter, the coarser the hair is. So a generalization is extremely curly hair types tend to have a larger diameter, and thus extremely hair types would tend to be coarse hair. But you must take these generalizations into consideration, but you are responsible for analyzing each and every client's hair to determine the texture, the wave pattern, the elasticity, the density, the porosity, the condition of the client's hair, and which product would be viable for use. Okay, hair growth. This is key. If hair is not growing, we as barbers are cooked because we can't make no money. Okay, hair is present all over the body except on the palms, soles, lips, and eyelids. Okay, we have two main types, but one type is pretty much broken into two. We have vellus hair and terminal hair. Vellus hair is also called lanugo hair. That's your short, fine, unpigmented, downy hair. It almost never has a medulla or melanin and helps in the efficient evaporation of perspiration. In adults, vellus hair is found in places normally considered hairless. That's like your foreheads, eyelids, and bald scalp. We probably would call this baby hair. It has this white looking appearance, and when you try to cut it with your trimmers, it usually gives you all kinds of fits, but that's your vellus hair. Terminal hair is the long, coarse hair found on the scalp, legs, arms, bodies of males and females. Hormonal changes during puberty cause some areas of fine vellus hair to replace with thicker terminal hair. All hair follicles are capable of producing either vellus or terminal hair, depending on genetics, age, and hormones. In occurrence of male pattern baldness, that's androgenic alopecia, the follicles stop making terminal hair and revert back to the producing the vellus type. So, terminal hair is somewhat defined into two sections. You have your primary terminal, which is short, thick hair that grows on the eyebrows and eyelashes. Then your secondary terminal is the long hair found on the scalp, beard, chest, back, and legs. What is the growth cycle? Your average growth of your scalp hair is a half an inch per month. Shaving, trimming, cutting, singeing, or ointment or oil applications do not increase growth, contrary to popular belief. Your normal hair sheds, roughly, you probably lose 75 to 100 hairs per day. Eyebrow hairs or eyelashes are replaced every 4 to 5 months. Okay. Let's talk about the growth cycles. And then we're going to talk about growth patterns. Okay. The growth cycles of hair. You have 3 phases of hair growth. The growth of the scalp occurs more rapidly between the ages of 15 and 30 and declines sharply between 50 and 60. Hair growth is also influenced by such factors as the season of the year, nutrition, and hormonal changes within the body. In normal, healthy hair, hair growth occurs in cycles. Each complete cycle has 3 phases that are repeated over and over throughout life. These cycles are the anagen, catagen, and telogen phases. So your anagen phase is your growth phase. During the anagen phase, new hair is produced. The cells are manufactured in the hair follicles. Hair cells are produced faster than any other normal cell in the body during this phase. About 90% of the scalp hair is in the anagen phase. That is growing at any given time. The anagen phase generally lasts 3 to 5 years, but it can last as long as 10 years. The anagen phase determines how long the hair will grow before shedding. Therefore, the longer the anagen phase is, the longer the hair can grow. This explains why some people can grow their hair extremely long lengths and others cannot. Okay, so your anagen phase is your growth phase. That's when new hair is produced. And keep in mind, notice that I said the average phase of the anagen cycle lasts 3 to 5 years, but it can last up to 10 years. Now, the catagen phase is the transition phase. That is the transition between growth and resting. During the catagen phase, the follicle shrinks, hair bulb disappears, and the shrunken root end forms a rounded club. The catagen phase lasts 1 to 2 weeks. Less than only 1% of the hairs in the catagen phase at any given time. Then you have the telogen phase, which is called the resting phase. That is the final phase of the hair growth cycle. The hair either sheds during this phase or remains in place until it is pushed out by the growth of new hair in the next anagen phase. Less than 10% of the scalp hair is in the telogen phase at any given time. This phase lasts for approximately 3 to 6 months or until the hair is shed. As soon as the telogen phase ends, new hair in the anagen phase begins the cycle again. On average, the entire growth process repeats itself once every 4 to 5 years. Okay. Minoxidil and finasteride, we talked about that earlier. They are the only treatments that have been scientifically proven to increase hair growth and are approved for that purpose by the FDA. Products that claim to increase hair growth are regulated as drugs and are not cosmetics. Okay. We talked about the hair shedding 75 to 100 hairs per day. Hair loss beyond this estimated average indicates a problem. Okay. Let's talk about some growth patterns. Then we're going to talk some myths. And then we'll be done. Okay. Growth patterns. Whenever you're cutting a hair, combing a hair, brushing a hair, before you get on that hair, you must first analyze the hair in the scalp. No matter what you're doing, you got to analyze. One of the things you're looking for in the analyst is the hair's growth pattern. You're checking for any inconsistencies, making sure you understand if a client has any natural parts, where they may fall. Wave pattern, you're following the wave pattern. You're taking your time to analyze in order to help you to approach the haircut in a stronger manner. Okay, some of the things you want to look for. Well, first off, what is a growth pattern? Working with the hair's natural growth pattern produces a more natural looking haircut and style. The hair stream is the hair that flows in the same direction. Two streams flowing in opposite direction forms a natural part of the hair. You may have some people that has a part to the, let's say they might have a part to the right of the head, right at the parietal ridge. And after the part, that part of the hair streams downward. And then to the left side of the part, it streams to the left. So that is when it's flowing in different directions. That's where you have a part. It is your job as a master hair care specialist to be able to identify changes in the hair stream so you could govern the haircut accordingly. Because what you want to do, you want to create a more natural looking haircut and style that the client will have less trouble duplicating for everyday wear. Growth patterns that result in creating hair streams, whorls, or cowlicks are determined by the angle at which the hair emerges from the hair follicle. Okay, a whorl. What is a whorl? A whorl is hair that grows in a circular or swirl pattern. Whorls are most often seen at the crown, but they can be anywhere. They can be at the front hairline, they could be at the crown, they could be in the middle of the head, they could be on the sides, they could be on the back. It's your job to analyze the hair and determine if you see it. Now, a cowlick is a tuft of hair that stands straight up. Cowlicks are usually most noticeable at the front hairline, but they may be located anywhere on the scalp. Style should be chosen to minimize the upright effect of cowlick. So when you analyze the hair and you find cowlick, you may want to stop, you may want to leave it a little off the left, or do something to avoid those cowlicks. Okay, let's talk about some myths. Shaving, clipping, and cutting the hair on the head makes it grow back faster, darker, and coarser. It may seem to grow back faster, but this has no effect on hair growth. When hair is blunt cut to the same length, it may grow back. Scalp massage increases hair growth. The fact is, the scalp massages are very stimulating and can increase blood circulation, relax the nerves, and tighten the scalp muscles. But, however, it has not been scientifically proven that any type of stimulation or scalp massage increases hair growth. Myth: gray hair is coarser and more resistant than pigmented hair. Fact: other than the lack of pigment, gray hair, or conices, is exactly the same as pigmented hair. Although gray hair may be resistant, it is not resistant simply because it's gray. Pigmented hair on the same person's head is just as resistant as the gray hair. Gray hair is simply more noticeable than pigmented hair. Another myth: the amount of natural curl is always determined by the racial background. We talked about this earlier. Fact: anyone of any race or mixed race can have hair from straight to extremely curly. It is also true that within races, individuals have hair with varying degrees of curl in different areas of the head. So, previously we talked about a generalization. One thing we know about a generalization is not. Okay. Some things I wanted to kind of let you know. The peptide bonds, we talked about those being the chemical bonds. The hair root lies below the skin surface and the shaft extends beyond the skin surface. The hair root has five main structures. We talked about that. Hair shaft has three layers. We talked about that. We talked about hair being an appendage of the skin. It protects the head from heat, cold, and injury. And we talked about biology, which is the study of the hair. So this chapter you must read, you must analyze, you must study, look at these notes, because you can't just expect to look at this stuff. You have to come very familiar with the material in order to be ready for your exam.